Yo, what is up guys? It's Pedro here, and today I'll give you guys a quick free agency update. So first, the Washington Commanders are expected to re-sign center Tyler Larsen, so we're going to talk about that. Also, Brandon Scherff is expected to sign with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I'll talk about how Christian Kirk's deal affects Terry McLaurin's possible extension with the Washington Commanders. So if you guys are new, make sure to subscribe for Washington and NFL content. Help me get to 7,500 subscribers. Also, make sure you guys hit that like button and turn on those notifications so you don't miss these free agency videos. Also, follow my Twitter, trying to get to 1,000 followers on there. Now, let's get right into the video. Okay, so let's first start off with Tyler Larsen, then we'll get into Brandon Scherff, the Christian Kirk deal, how that could affect Terry, and we'll go over some guys that have already been signed. So Tyler Larsen, I think this is a pretty good signing for the Washington Commanders. Obviously not a splash signing or anything. It's just re-signing one of their guys from this past season. And I thought Tyler Larsen, when he did play, he was very, very solid for us. A very capable backup center, and if you need him to, he can probably play left guard or right guard for you as well. Most of these guys who play center are versatile and can play both guard positions, and he is coming off an Achilles injury, so that could be concerning. I'm not sure if it ever came out if he tore his Achilles or if I don't know what happened with it, but either way, he's banged up. We'll see when he's good to go, but I think he's a very capable backup center, and that was one of the needs for us because Chase Roulier is coming back from an injury, and there's reports from Ben Stanek that he's progressing nicely, and that's fine. And even if he's healthy, we still needed a backup center because Keith Ismail is, I'm not a huge fan of him. He played okay at times, but you definitely need an upgrade at that backup center position, and I think Larsen is a good backup center. You could still draft someone in the middle rounds to kind of play that guard, maybe center position backup, but I feel like this is a good signing. Obviously has that familiarity with Ron Rivera in Carolina and John Matsko, so there's not going to be any adjustment period. The only adjustment period is really going to be the chemistry with him and Carson Wentz, but he's already got that chemistry with Heineke and the other offensive linemen, so this deal to me was a good deal to make. They re-signed Troy Apke yesterday as well, so they're starting to re-sign some guys, and who knows, there could be some more guys tonight. So the other news is that the Jaguars and Brandon Scherff have agreed to a deal. The terms aren't out yet, but I do think that Brandon Scherff is going to get absolutely paid. I mean, we knew pretty much for the last year or so that Brandon Scherff wouldn't be back in Washington, but after the Carson Wentz trade went through, I guess officially it's going to go through on Wednesday, but once that happened, it was a certainty that we weren't going to be able to bring back Scherff because he's going to get like a 4 or 5 year deal, probably worth at least $18 million a year. So Brandon Scherff will be getting paid, and I guess he wants to go to Jacksonville. He's not going to be doing much winning there, at least in the first couple years. We'll see after that. Like they're making some moves this offseason, but free agency, you don't want to build through free agency. You want to plug some holes in free agency. You want to get some low-risk contracts, but you don't want to be totally spending like this. There was a stat from Field Yates where every team, the biggest spender from each year, the last 7 years, they've increased their win total by a decent amount the next year. But then if you look down the line, a lot of those teams end up regressing afterwards because they're paying these guys too much money. There's a reason why these guys are hitting free agency, because a lot of the times their teams didn't want to re-sign them, because these teams usually can find a way to keep their guys. So they're hitting free agency for a reason. But if you're a Jacksonville Jaguars fan and you're watching this, Brandon Scherff is a great guard. I think he's not in the same category as someone like Zach Martin or Quentin Nelson, but he's that next tier right there. He's a really, really good guard, and when he plays, he's great. A really good run blocker, solid pass blocker, does struggle with some penalties at times. I would say the biggest thing with Brandon Scherff is his injury history. You can look through the games. I'm not going to pull it up, but every year he misses a significant amount of time, at least 3 or 4 games almost every single year. Some years it's worse than others, and it's just I don't think it's worth it to pay a guard that much money who is constantly out of games. So I wish Brandon Scherff nothing but the best, but it's not going to be in Washington. It's going to be with the Jaguars for the next few years, and I'm excited to see what the terms of that contract are, and we will be getting, unless we make a crazy move here, we will be getting a compensatory pick for Brandon Scherff, likely a third. So that is very valuable. I've been seeing people on social media talk all the time like Washington should have traded Brandon Scherff. Guys, Brandon Scherff, especially if we traded him this past offseason, there's no market for him. I mean, because you got to think, he was making like 8 or 17, 16 plus mil on the franchise tag. That was all guaranteed. So you can't, if a team's trading for him, they can't manipulate that cap number. That is 100% guaranteed right there against the cap for their team, unless they, agree to an extension. He's old, not old, but he's getting up there. He's, injury prone, and he's a guard, so not many teams are going to give up more than maybe a third. So what Ron Rivera did is like, we're going to get a third anyways. We might as well have him for the rest of the season, buy us time to find a replacement. So I really don't think, maybe they could have traded him the first year that Ron Rivera got there in Washington that offseason, but even then, I don't know. The trade market really wouldn't have been that great for him. The next thing right here, Christian Kirk agrees to a 4-year, $84 million contract with the Jacksonville Jaguars. What are the Jacksonville Jaguars doing? $21 million a year for Christian Kirk, who's a good receiver. He's a good young receiver, but he hasn't even broken 1,000 yards in a season for his career. That is a crazy deal. And of course, that there's, the structure of the contract has worked a little bit differently, so it's not as bad as it seems. And there's a lot of incentives in that deal, but still, nonetheless, that is a lot of money for a guy that hasn't even broke 1,000 yards receiving in a season. He's a good receiver, don't get me wrong, but that's why you really don't want to be paying these free agent receivers. It's just not worth it unless you're getting these, small-time guys that, low risk, high reward, like Cedric Wilson today. I thought that was a great deal by the Dolphins. It was like a 3-year, $28 million contract, or not 20, it's like $22 million contract. Like, that to me is a good deal because you're spending a decent amount of money, but $7 million a year for a guy that has a ton of potential, that to me is a very good deal. But spending 15 plus mil a year on these free agent receivers, that to me is not smart. And now Terry's going to be getting paid over 20 mil a year. He might get 25 mil a year because of this deal and other deals as well. Like Mike Williams got paid 20 mil a year. So I think Terry was always going to get paid more. And, I want to say, Washington, it's their fault. They should have signed him before free agency. Let's keep it real, guys. Terry and his agent knew what they were doing. They were not going to sign a deal before free agency unless it was a huge deal, unless it was 25 mil a year, because they knew this would happen. Mike Williams, Christian Kirk, other guys as well. A.J. Brown, Deebo Samuel, DK Metcalf, all those guys are still up for extension. So Terry knew what he was doing, and we're going to have to pay him a ton now. It was always going to be a ton, but now it's going to be more, it's going to be a lot of money to pay Terry McLaurin, but it's worth it. We got to get a deal done. You want to bring back your own guys, and that's what you got to do. That's why you can't be spending this much money in free agency, because then you're not going to be able to take care of your own guys. So some of the other, free agents that got signed, so we talked about Cedric Wilson, the Falcons linebacker that a lot of people wanted, he got signed. Devondre Campbell got signed. Quandre Diggs got signed. There's a couple others as well. But Washington there's still some targets that I like. There's still a bunch of free agents that they need to re-sign themselves. So going to be an active next couple of hours. I'm going to be posting this video, and then whatever happens from there, I will keep you guys updated. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and peace, guys.